Right, Red in Focus today. We are at King Edward VII School and we're here with Master in Charge of Athletics, Mr. Simon Thorne, and the 2018 captains, Itumeleng Molefe and Tristan Smith. Welcome guys, I see there's a hive of activity behind us as we prepare for Inter-High. First of all, congratulations Itumeleng and Tristan on your captainships for 2018. I know it's a great honour for you to lead the team Red. Mr. Thorne, please tell us a little bit about the history of athletics at King Edward.
The athletics system goes back a long way to the early 1900s. It's one of our oldest sports and arguably one of the more successful sports. It has had its highs and lows, but generally speaking it has achieved a great deal in a relatively short space of time. There were very few events in the beginning, and obviously our rivals have changed over the years. We do have our traditional, I don't want to call them rivals, we have the traditional schools that we compete against, namely Parktown, Jeppe High School for boys and Pretoria Boys, although it is changing a little bit of late because athletics is, the complexities of athletics is changing as well.
Itumeleng, with Mr. Thorne giving those names of those traditional boys' schools, and we've just had a couple of weeks back the Triangular, what does it mean to you as a captain to lead a school in an annual event like that?
The Triangular is actually one of the longest running schoolboy athletics events, so I'm a very proud captain to be leading my boys to victory in the Triangular, and I'd like to say thank you to Parktown and Jeppe for being such a great competition.
Tristan, on the day the competition is fierce, isn't it?
Yes, on the track the competition rivalry is very fierce, but off the track we always friends.
Mr. Thorne, that was the 65th one if I'm staying corrected. The Triangular event, what does that mean to a school like King Edward?
Because it's against traditional schools in Johannesburg, and I do stand corrected, but as I understand it, it's one of the longest meetings, although there have been some breaks for a year or two in during certain decades, but it is the oldest Johannesburg athletics meeting amongst the same schools. It does mean a great deal. There's a myth that King Edwards has never lost it. We have lost it, I think it's to Parktown, although the famous Mr. Farbo constantly corrects me on these things, and he would have the history a bit better. But we're not unbeaten, but we have had a very, very good run for quite a few years. It's very close to our hearts, both Parktown boys and Jeppe High School for boys, and we always honour that fixture, and especially since the 70s, 80s, 90s, and now in the 2000s, we've honoured that fixture year in and year out. This year, there was a little bit of a problem. Parktown had a burst pipe on their track, but we rallied around as schools, and at the 11th hour on Friday we managed to move the event to King Edward VII School and host it here, because that's the importance of the meeting for those three schools. So we didn't want it to be postponed or cancelled, and we ensured that again it was held in 2018.
Fantastic, and camaraderie not only on the track but off it as well for the whole team. Now leading up to Inter-High, that comes up on the 15th of September. Itumeleng, what do we want to say to our boys heading out to this biggest annual event on the athletics calendar?
I'd like to say to my boys that get to your practices and work hard, but above all things have fun, and boys, let's bring it back home.
Tristan?
Seeing that we've won 22 out of the 36 Inter-High competitions, I'd just like to say to the boys that they have to bring the best on the track, and we have to bring it home.
Mr. Thorne, a little bit about the history about Inter-High. We've had a long, fantastic history that goes behind it as King Edward, but what about the history of all the schools competing in it?
The schools have varied and they have changed. It was relaunched by the then headmaster of Pretoria Boys in 1982. As for many, many years it had disappeared as a format. I think during the 60s and 70s the athletics scene dipped a little bit, not between the Joburg schools but as an Inter-High as such. Then in 1982 the headmaster of Pretoria Boys resurrected the Inter-High, and also the events have changed. There wasn't javelin, there wasn't triple jump, the events of hurdles have changed. So over the last 10-15 years, in particular the English all-boys schools have lagged behind in certain areas. So we have changed all the hurdle distances to the proper accredited Athletics South Africa distances. as well as the heights. We have taken, for example, seniors were running 300-meter hurdles. We've got them to run in the 400 and so on and so forth. So we in line totally with our distances, our weights, and all events and things like that. But the schools have changed. So, for example, I remember 1985, Athlone Boys and Highlands North were competing at these events, and the private schools were competing on their own. For example, St Stithians came very, very close in the early 90s to winning Inter High, and the same as St John's. They had very, very strong athletics teams. So it has gone in peaks and troughs for schools. We see certain schools doing very, very well. You know, mustn't forget Part-Time Boys winning in 1987 and 1988, and Pretoria Boys as well, lifting the trophy a few times, and Uffies as well. Yes, I think we've been a bit lucky in certain events, and we've won very close events by 1 or 2 points. And next Saturday, great schools, Uffies, Pretoria Boys, King Edward's, Parktown, Jeppe, St David's will be competing as their own, St Benedict's. I know some of the private schools amalgamate to make an independent schools team. And it's really anyone's on the day. It depends how they perform. A disqualification here or no jump there can really affect and throw the balance out.
Exactly. Timoling, and obviously with the crown taken away from King Edward in 2017 to a well-deserved Uffies team, but a strong history for us from 2016 with the boys doing very well then. I'm sure you want to bring it back home.
Yes, definitely.
Tristan, and a last final word from you to the boys?
Just good luck and win the Acre.
Mr. Thorne, what about a word from you to your team Red?
I just want to thank the boys. It is difficult, and in particular with the matrics, their balance in sport and their preliminary examinations. I'm really proud of this matric group, the 2018 group. They've communicated well when they can make practice, when they can't. No matric has let me down on an event, so I'm very, very proud of these young men and the leadership here that's exhibited. I mean, they've got a test tomorrow, and it's test me today that they schedule their breaks to do a bit of athletics as well. And for the main boys, just for the boys going to compete next week in the A and the B team, just have fun. I think there's enough pressure on sports, and we also forget to have fun. Sometimes you're going to come third, sometimes you're going to come fourth, and unfortunately sometimes you're going to come last, and just as long as you give all your best.
Thank you guys, and good luck.
Thank you.